ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ये ना जो मार्क के 8 number. We are reading from 5th canto, chapter 8. The character of Bharat Maharaj, text number 8. Translation. Gradually, Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate toward the deer. He began to raise it and maintain it by giving it grass. He was always careful to protect it from the attacks of tigers and other animals. When it itched, he petted it, and in this way he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules and regulations for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement.
From this, we can understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duties by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bath, attend Mangal Aarti, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.5, Yajnadana tapa karma na chadyam karyam eva tat yajnodhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manis manis manishanam. Acts of sacrifices, charity and penance are not to be given up but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great soul. Even if one is in the renounced order, he should never give up the regulative principles. He should worship the deities and give his time and life to the service of Krishna. He should also continue following the rules and regulations of austerity and penance. These things cannot be given up. One should not think oneself very advanced simply because one has accepted a sannyas order. The activities of Bharat Maharaj should be carefully studied for one's spiritual advancement.
Hare Krishna. I seek your blessings so that I can speak on this verse. So here we see that how Bharat Maharaj, out of compassion for the deer, forgot the purpose of life for which he has came in the forest. His aim got shifted from becoming devotee of Krishna to becoming devotee of a deer. So its object of service totally got replaced by this deer which came in his life. So it began as a compassion, but it ended in devastation actually. And this compassion costed a 2 lifetimes for him to get repaired. So this is very much lamentable for a spiritual practitioner. So the rules are there to take us to remember Krishna and to keep us away from forgetting Krishna. So in essence, Shastra says Smartavyam Satatam Vishnu Vismartavyam na Jatujit. This is an emperor of all rules and regulations. Somehow we should remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Sometimes demons, they have remembered Krishna more than anybody else. Like Kamsa, when he's drinking water, he's seeing face of Krishna in the water. When he's looking here, there, everywhere, he's finding Krishna. That doesn't mean he's more conscious, more advanced than pure devotees. His remembrance also is not favorable. He is remembering Krishna out of envy. So even somebody remembers Krishna, it should be out of love. Anukulasya Krishnanashil. That should be the primary quality of remembering Krishna. So we should not remember Krishna out of fear. Like when rounds remains, and it's 11 o'clock night, we get scared. I have to chant so many names. So the holy name appears to be a scaring thing. So then that chanting is not for the pleasure of the Lord. We are chanting out of fear. So that way we lose the mercy of Krishna. So here the caution is given to us that rules, regulations meant to remember Krishna should not make us rule conscious than Krishna conscious. Suppose there is a rule is made, one should remove shoes here. So that is a law. And some people have removed their shoes in car and they came. So the security guard will say, "Where are your shoes?" They says, "We have removed in car." He says, "No, you have to remove shoes here, because that is a law. Remove shoes here." So he will make them forced to get the shoes and remove that, and then he will allow them to go inside. That means that person doesn't understand what the purpose is of that rule. So sometimes we, on the name of following rules, regulations, forget the essence of that particular rule. And we may offend devotees, or we become fanatic for following that rule. And we don't understand for what that purpose is, for what purpose the rule has been made. So this we cannot understand unless until we have mercy of Vaishnavas. With our own brain, we cannot make out what is spiritual life is. Best of the understandings, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord. Like there are big scientists, big scholars who have got PhD in Shadsandarbhas. They know Jiva Goswami better than us. They can quote all his quotations, whatever he has quoted. But even after knowing such a vast knowledge, still they are not devotees of Krishna. They still smoke, they still break all principles. So that doesn't mean by understanding intellectually one can understand. It's not like that. So Krishna cannot be captured by our intellectual capacity, our material abilities. Krishna can be obtained only by the causeless mercy of devotees. So here, Bharat Maharaj is getting deviated, and surprisingly, nobody is coming to help him. So it's a doubtful that whether he was with devotees or not, or he isolated himself from the association of Vaishnavas, and his only association was with this deer. So when he makes his world as a deer only, and he cannot see anybody else in that world other than that deer, even Supreme Personality of Godhead also is not there in that world, then it becomes a very cause of calamity. So we should also not become, create our own cocoon, that we don't see any devotees' help, we don't seek any devotees' help, neither we read scriptures, nothing. And we think that this is what spiritual life is. And we make our own rules, regulations, or definitions of spiritual life. And we think that I am perfect and I am the one who is going to reside in spiritual world. And like that, we become, we bring a disgrace in our own life. So in English, there is a proverb, where angels fear to tread, fools rush in. Where good people get scared to pass or travel, but foolish people they rush in. So like that, we have to be very careful. Are we getting deviated by our own misunderstandings, and we are away from guidance, and our mind has made us feel that I am advanced, I know everything, and like that, then it's a matter of worry. The most crucial time, we will not take shelter of devotees. So this will become a very much serious thing for a practitioner. So that's why the best solution is we should always keep ourselves in the association of devotees, and just not keep association very material. That we are together as a devotees, but never talk about Krishna. Never chant together, never read together, but we are together. Then that association also of not any benefit. What devotees do in association, Krishna's expectation is Tatam Prasanga Mami Veer Singh. My devotees, when they come together, they will speak, glorify, chant about me. So when two devotees come together, their pivotal discussion is about Krishna. Like businessmen, when they come together, do you think they will discuss something else than the business? They have big conferences, and they have get-togethers. For what? To understand each other's positives, negatives, and to enhance their whatever business they have. So that's why they come together. So when we have assembled as devotees, and if we are not discussing about devotion, then our purpose of association is getting defeated. So that is not a association at all. If we are not discussing about Krishna, if we are not serving Krishna together, we are not helping each other to go closer to Krishna. So that association we are looking for, and that association we should give to others. It's not that we make people forget about Krishna. This deer, what association she had given? She made such a pure devotee into, by her association, she made him to take 3 lifetimes. But when Narad Muni and all these people give their association, they make that life as a last life to that person. So we should also not increase the lifetimes of others by our association. If somebody is very pure soul and we contaminate him by our, association, then neither we are going or neither we are allowing the others to go. Then that association is very dangerous. And if it comes from karmi, we can understand, he's karmi. But it comes from a devotee's garb, then it is very difficult. You cannot understand. Somebody is wearing dhoti, kurta, tilak, everything, but he is coming and gossiping, and he is just chit-chatting, offending devotees, blaspheming others. So that person to avoid is very difficult. And if we are not alert, we also develop taste in it, and we also add poison in it, and we make sure that we spiritually die. It's a suicide, spiritual suicide. So we have to be very careful where my absorption is, with whom I am associating, what kind of association I am taking, what kind of association I am giving, how close I am going towards Lord. And that should be our worry. The days are passing in our spiritual life. So it is expected that we go closer to Krishna. That is spiritual advancement. Advancement means we should be little further ahead than the yesterday time or previous day. Not that we were remembering Krishna and now we are not remembering him. So that should be a worry. So we should introspect where I am going, what I am doing, what I am thinking, what I am talking, what I am speaking, what's my progress in spiritual life. So that's why the association is very important. Here the deer has come to Bharat Maharaj for us, because we are not living in forest. So this deer is not there. So we should not think that I am immune from fall down. But there are many other deers which will come in different forms. So principle we have to learn. Not only think that I am not in forest, there is no baby deer around me, so I will not fall. So for us also there are dangers which are there, and we should learn from this chapter, this episode, that how cautious we should be in the dangers which are around us, which are planted by Maya. And we should be able to understand this is risk, I should not venture in it. So that way we should be careful in spiritual life and not fall prey to our so-called intellectual capacity, but we should take shelter of devotees and under their guidance practice our devotional life, and in their association we should try to serve them, try to remember Krishna more, and we should also help others to remember Krishna. So that is our service to devotees, not just feeding them food and all, but we should also feed their spiritual soul by giving holy name, by discussing about Krishna, by reading about Krishna. So that way we can help each other and save ourselves from the calamity of forgetting Krishna. So hardly if you calculate day, how much we remember Krishna. The official time to remember Krishna is 2 hours. But in that 2 hours also, do we dedicate that 2 hours for remembering Krishna? Sometimes after completing all rounds, we forget that we don't remember also whose name I chanted. That feeling for that personality never appears in the heart. So we have to be very, careful to take this task in life. That I want to remember Lord. I want to serve devotees. I want to be successful in my spiritual life. And that's why whatever cares we have to take, we should take. And we should be cautious. We should not think that I am expert. I have handled many more worse situations. Now I am advanced. I don't need to take care. So that will not be your right spirit. If somebody is driving car for 10 years, that doesn't mean he should drive car without holding the steering. Because he will say that I already drove 10 years. I have expertise. I understand. But if he is not careful, even after having such a vast experience, he will meet an accident. So there are accidents on road also. So spiritual life also we see there are so many accidents where people have left Krishna consciousness. So that should not give us discouragement not to practice spiritual life and not to make a rule that, oh Prabhuji, see such an advanced devotee could not sustain, so what I can sustain. So anyway, I am not practicing, and seeing their fall down, I will not practice at all. Because if such a great soul also fall down, then what to speak about mine? So we should not lose enthusiasm. If such a thing is happening, then we should understand that such a great soul is falling down. Then I also have potential to fall down. So I have to be very careful. Not that we become discouraged and we leave practice of devotional life. But we have to move ahead. Like soldiers, when they see there is a battle is going on, if their fellow people are falling, so he should not run away from the battlefield. We will continually appreciate that. He should continue his fight till the time he attacks the enemies. So like that, we should also see these pastimes not to discourage us, but these pastimes are to be cautious in our life and be careful in our life, and we should proceed with lot of enthusiasm, caution, and with a grave responsibility. Take it as a serious matter. We cannot be casual in spiritual practices. We have to be very careful. And anyone who is careful, who is pleasing devotees, who is serving Vaishnavas, who is taking shelter of holy name, and who is bringing others in spiritual life, he will be protected. He will have enthusiasm. He will never get bored of practicing spiritual life. He will have a question in mind, what I have to do. So these all pessimistic behavior, comes in the life of devotees who are not taking shelter of holy name association, and they are not engaged in services, so they feel what I am doing here, and for them material life will be very attractive, and again they will be pulled by material life, and they will lose such a precious opportunity of perfecting life. So we should not wait for that moment of our dissolution, but we should be very careful and keep ourselves very alert in the practice of devotional service. Try to serve Vaishnavas. If we remain always positive, then the negative attacks will not happen upon us. But if we remain neutral, then slowly it will not remain neutral, but it will go to negativity. We say that I will not serve devotees, neither I will go in Maya. I will remain Tatistha. But that will not happen. That neutral also will take us to negativity. Because this is a current of river. If you don't swim, then you will flow. Even you remain neutral, you will flow down. You may not be drowning, but you will go down. So that's why spiritual life means every day you have to practice with care, attention, and that way those who are practicing, they will relish spiritual life. Anartha nivritti stage we should cross. But when that stage will come, when you take sadhu sang, when you have shraddha, then you take sadhu sang, then you do bhajan kriya, then anartha nivritti stage comes. But if you feel that I don't have anarthas only, that doesn't mean that we have crossed that anartha nivritti stage. We have not yet started only. So, if a thief is not trying to run away from the jail, then the superintendents will not do any, and they will not give any trouble to him. Because he is secure prisoner. So if we think that Maya is not troubling me, anarthas are not troubling me, that means we are already succumbed to Maya actually. We are not even struggling also. So that's why we have to rise up, have firm faith in spiritual life, take proper association of sadhus, and begin our bhajan kriya. Intense chanting, intense hearing, serving. And when we do all these things, then the anarthas will pop up. They will come like Kaliya hood. And that time we should take shelter of Krishna more, and then Lord will control these anarthas. So that way we should progress in our spiritual life. So one of the anarthas is this compassion, which is virtue, but if it's wrongly placed, then it will become a calamity. So Vaishnava should have Jivedaya. So this was the Jivedaya which Bharata Maharaj was practicing. But if Jivedaya is not in the association of devotees, then it will become a calamity. So if we are trying to be very merciful on others, but we are not at all giving them Krishna, we are just giving them material needs. If somebody wants job, we give job. Somebody wants food, we give food. Somebody wants clothes, we give clothes. And that way we are giving them material help. But if you are not giving at all spirituality to them, then we will harm them and harm ourselves. So we should understand what is the purpose of facilitating people's needs. To do philanthropic work is to bring them towards spirituality. We also give prasad, we also give food, but that is Krishna's remnants. By eating that, not only their material hunger will get emaciated, but they will advance spiritually also. So that way our help should, not only solve the material problems of person, but also it should lead them towards Krishna. So that kind of help we should do to others. Otherwise, it's better we don't venture in such a compassionate, adventure. So that's why this all our endeavors should be directed under the guidance. So what we are doing, that also should be monitored, because at this moment, we are not expert to handle these virtues in a right way. Sometimes we will get material morality will take over spirituality, and we will remain, again in this material world. So we have to be very careful what I have to do, So sometimes we have to tell some other things to get spiritual life ahead. So that should be under guidance we should practice. So like that, we should be very careful and make our spiritual life a easy journey to spiritual world, not easy journey to other planets, some other abodes than the abode of Lord. So that caution we should take care. Okay. Any questions you have? Or what's time now? 58. Okay. Any questions here? Till class is 8 o'clock, no? 8? 10. Okay. You have questions or? We'll take next verse then. The great king Maharaj Bharat began to think, alas, this helpless young deer, by the force of time, an agent of Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now lost its relatives and friends, has taken shelter of me. It does not know anyone but me, as I have become its father, mother, brother, and relatives. This deer is thinking in this way, and it has full faith in me. It does not know anyone but me. Therefore, I should not be envious and think that for the deer my own welfare will be destroyed. I should certainly raise, protect, gratify, and fondle it. When it has taken shelter with me, how can I neglect it? Even though deer is disturbing my spiritual life, I realize that a helpless person who has taken shelter cannot be neglected. That would be a great fault.
When a person is advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, he naturally becomes very sympathetic towards all living entities suffering in the material world. Naturally, such an advanced person thinks of the suffering of the people in general. However, if one does not know of the material suffering of fallen souls and becoming sympathetic because of bodily comforts, as in the case of Bharat Maharaj, such sympathy or compassion is cause of one's downfall. If one is actually sympathetic to fallen, suffering humanity, he should try to elevate person from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. As far as the deer was concerned, Bharat Maharaj became very sympathetic. But he forgot that it was impossible for him to elevate a deer to spiritual consciousness. Because after all, a deer is but an animal. It was very dangerous for Bharat Maharaj to sacrifice all his regulative principles simply कहाँ पे? To take care of an animal. The principles initiated in Bhagavad Gita should be followed. Yam hina vathyanti ete purusham purusabha. Bhagavad Gita 2.15. As far as the body, material body is concerned, we cannot do anything for anyone. However, by the grace of Krishna, we may raise a person to a spiritual consciousness. If we ourselves follows the rules and regulation, if we give up our own spiritual activities and simply become concerned with the bodily comforts of other, we will fall into a dangerous position.
So here, Bharat Maharaj was knowing that the spiritual life of mine is at stake, you know. But he is feeling that I don't mind. How can I become selfish? That I should advance spiritually. So he is feeling that that is a selfish behavior. That how can I, not attain this deer and just practice my spiritual life. So that way, this compassion took over his spiritual life, and he just forgot, whom to attend in our endeavors. So instead of attending Lord, he is attending the deer. And he is convinced, and he is giving his own interpretations to his compassion. And that way, it's very much surprising to spiritual practitioners that how he is getting carried away, So this is very much worrisome, If somebody is not understands the real principles of life, and he has backup of spiritual, convictions, not for advancing, but to materially becoming, philanthropist or showing compassion to others. So that way he's totally losing the track. He knows that he is losing track, but he is volunteered himself to lose that track. And he is feeling that that will be a great fault. What is a great fault? To practice spiritual life without taking care of this deer. That he is defining as a great fault. So actual fault was he was taking care of deer, but he is feeling that practicing spiritual life and not taking care of deer is a great fault. So these are the situations which come in our life also. Sometimes we think that material life practicing is more important than spiritual life. If I don't take care of material life, then how can I practice spiritual life? And that way we neither practice spiritual life and material life anyway. Whatever best you perfectly practice, it remains imperfect only. Because material life is never going to become perfect. This world is called as a Dukhalayam Ashashvat. You cannot make him Sukhalayam Shashvat. How much ever you endeavor, you put patch here, some other place get punctured. You put there patch, some other place gets punctured. The real endeavor should be to change the tube only. So we cannot have happiness in material life. Like you cannot get a water in desert. How much ever that mirage appears to be promising, and people have ran after it. They got only hot sand, and we also ran and we also got hot sand. But still, the mirage ahead of us appears to be promising. And then in this way, the whole life goes in running here and there in search of water. Where? In desert. So like that, happiness in material life, compassion in material life, it's all are fruitless. We cannot become compassionate on anybody else materially. So only compassion which we can show to others is giving Krishna to them. Everybody in search of Krishna. So we should try to give Krishna to them. And Krishna only can satisfy everyone. We should not try to replace Krishna. So Janma Sarthik Kar Parokar. So we should not do Parokar first and then forget about our Sarth. So spiritually we should be very selfish. We cannot put our spiritual life at stake for other people's material life. So we have to be very, very selfish in practicing spiritual life. No matter what happens, our spiritual life we should protect. So that way, one can advance in spiritual life. Otherwise, if we become overwhelmed, materially compassionate, or we become materially, carried away, then we cannot achieve perfection in our spiritual life. Okay? So, let us practice spiritual life with proper understanding, with proper discrimination, and we should always take guidance in spiritual life from those who are advanced. Not that we should not take guidance from those who are themselves in problem. Then what they will do? They will direct us. They will misdirect us. So we should always take help from those who are situated properly in spiritual life. Otherwise, they will say, "Arey, don't practice only spiritual life." So they will direct us away from Krishna. So we should be very careful from whom we are taking guidance. So those people should be Jananu. We should follow the people who are spiritually firmly situated. They should be our beacon lights, and we should look towards them and practice our spiritual life. Okay? Otherwise, any problem comes and we try to take help from others, then the problem will become multifold by taking wrong guidance, wrong help. So we should be at least have that much discrimination power, where to take shelter, where to take guidance, and how to make our spiritual life perfect. So that is what we should learn from this Bharat Maharaj episode. Okay? Thank you. I'll stop. Hare Krishna. Shil Prabhupada ki Jai. Nand Koti Vaishnav.